All right, so today we're diving into a story that everyone thinks they know, Joseph and his brothers. But we're going way beyond the code many colors thing, to like really unpack all the emotional stuff beneath this big epic family reunion. We've got excerpts from the book of Genesis, chapters 43 through 45.
Right.
And let me tell you, these chapters are, well, they're something else.
Yeah. What really gets me is that this all happens years after, the brothers' betrayal. They've had all this time to change, but like how much have they really changed? That's what Joseph wants to figure out. And it all begins with this famine. It forces them to go back to Egypt, a place just loaded with guilt and fear.
Oh, totally. It's like their past is coming back to like bite them. They're desperate for food, but having to face Joseph again, man, that's got to be terrifying.
Absolutely. Just think about how heavy it must be to go back to where it all happened, And this time, it's Judah, the brother, who first suggested selling Joseph, who's leading the way. He's the one pushing their father to let Benjamin, the youngest, go back to Egypt with them.
Wow, that's a huge risk, especially with how protective Jacob is of Benjamin. What do you make of Judah's change, though? I mean, he went from starting the whole thing to being the protector.
It's really interesting, right? It shows how guilt and responsibility can really change a person. And it's not just talk either. They show up with all these gifts, balsam, honey, spices. It's more than just trying to make peace. It feels strategic,
Right. Genesis specifically mentions double the money. And I was wondering about that. Was that a normal thing back then, or were they just that desperate?
Honestly, it's probably a bit of both. You see, in ancient Near Eastern culture, those weren't just random presents. Those were really valuable things back then. Double the money. Yeah, shows how desperate they were. But it's also like they're trying to show respect, begging for mercy. They're saying, look, we messed up big time.
It makes you wonder if they truly understood just how bad they messed up, or if they thought, I don't know, maybe some fancy gifts would erase everything. And then there's how Joseph reacts. He doesn't just come right out and say who he is, does he? He sets up this whole encounter very carefully.
Exactly. Genesis 43 describes this big feast he throws for them. He arranges them all by age, with Benjamin the youngest getting special treatment. But there's this detail that's easy to miss. Back then, the Egyptians weren't supposed to eat with Hebrews. It was like taboo.
So he's already going against the rules, showing his power in these subtle ways, all before he even mentions their past.
Yeah, that's Joseph. Everything from where they're sitting to the food, it all points to how powerful he is now. He could easily take revenge, but he chooses a more, let's say, complicated way of handling things.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this character so interesting.
It really is. He's like directing a play, and his brothers have no idea they're the actors. And then there's that whole thing with the missing cup. It's like a turning point,
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
After that feast, Joseph, he plants his silver cup in Benjamin's bag. Then he turns around and accuses him of stealing. And he's watching how they react to all of this. Remember, he's already seen how generous they are, how honest they are. And now he's testing their loyalty, especially to Benjamin.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because he's all like, I use this cup for divination. Like, was that a normal thing back then, or was that just part of his plan?
Oh, divination was everywhere in ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
I mean, they were really into it. They used all sorts of ways to try and figure out what the gods were saying, like interpreting dreams, looking at animals, and even staring into cups. Now, did Joseph actually do divination? Who knows? But the fact that his brothers believe him, that's important. It shows just how far apart they are in terms of power. They're dealing with Egyptian magic, the full force of the Egyptian government.
Yeah, no wonder they're terrified. And then Judah steps up again. His speech in Genesis 44, so powerful.
It's really the key to understanding him. He owns up to what they did in the past. He says, what can we even say to you? How can we explain ourselves? How can we prove we're innocent? This isn't the same Judah who acted out of jealousy. He's carrying so much guilt. He'd rather be a slave than let anything happen to Benjamin.
And it hits even harder because he still doesn't know it's Joseph. He's pouring his heart out to the brother he wronged, and he has absolutely no clue.
Yeah, it's tragic in a way. But it shows how conflicted Joseph must be feeling. Imagine your own brother pouring his heart out, hurting over something you set in motion. You'd be feeling so many things at once. Hurt, anger, but maybe even a little bit of hope, seeing how much Judah's changed.
So what makes Joseph finally reveal himself? Why then, after that speech, it's like he's been holding it all in, and Judah's speech just breaks the dam.
It's huge, this moment. Genesis 45 says he makes everyone leave the room. Like he needs that space, just him and his brothers, for the truth to come out. He can't keep pretending anymore. It's all just too much.
And then he just breaks down. I am Joseph, Is my father still alive? Imagine being one of those brothers, your whole world just shifting.
Genesis says they're speechless with terror, which honestly, who can blame them? They've been living with this guilt, this fear for years. And now here he is, not just alive, but he's like the most powerful guy in Egypt.
Yeah, talk about a power shift. But then he says something they don't expect at all. Don't be upset. Don't be angry with yourselves for selling me, because God sent me here ahead of you to save lives. That's not the revenge they were probably expecting.
No kidding. It changes everything how he says that. Joseph doesn't make it about himself anymore. It's not even really about their family. He makes it part of this bigger plan, God's plan.
So is he saying what they did was okay? Or is he like giving them a way to move on, to maybe find some peace within this whole divine plan thing?
It's tough to say, honestly. He forgives them instantly, completely, but there's this sense of like, things are different now.
Yeah.
He tells them he loves them, but he also makes it clear he's in charge. You'll live in Goshen, he says. You'll be near me, because there's still 5 years of famine left. He's going to be the one taking care of them, but there's no question he's the one calling the shots now.
It makes you think, even without all the drama, that shift in power, the past mistakes, can things ever really go back to normal?
That's why this story still matters, thousands of years later. Forgiveness, power, family, it's all tangled up. Can we ever outrun our past? Or does it just become part of who we are, even when we're trying to make things right? Makes you think, doesn't it?
Definitely. Lots to unpack here, that's for sure. Thanks for diving into this with me. It's been, intense. And for everyone listening, keep an eye out for our next deep dive. We'll be tackling a whole new text, a whole new set of questions. Until then.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.